this video tutorial I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Dispersion 2 Photoshop action. What the action does is takes photos, breaks them apart and shoots them into a direction of your choice. So for this action I chose the up direction, and you can see the result there. Okay, so let's go ahead, open up your photo, and the first thing you want to check is that if your photo is set as the background. So if it's not, if you open up your photo and it's called something else, just go to Layer, New, Background from Layer, and it will set it as the background. Now another important thing to check before running the action, if you go to Image menu and go to Image Size, the resolution here will determine how far apart the default spread of the parts is. So for example, I'll just open up these here. So this example here, I ran the action at 300 dpi, and you can see the spread there. And this one here, I ran at 72 dpi. So you might want to just experiment with different resolutions. Probably try, start off with 200 dpi and see what you get, see if you like it, and then you can adjust accordingly. Alright, so, and just another thing to keep in mind, that once you change this number, so if I change this to 72, you'll see that the numbers here change, the width and height. Now what I like to do is if I want to change this to say 200 dpi, I'll just select this, Control C to copy it, I'll change this to 200, and then I'll paste it. So then we've got the original pixel dimensions, but with the new resolution, which will determine how far apart those parts spread out. Alright, okay, so I might just cancel that, we'll keep it at 300. Now what you want to do firstly is create a new layer and call it brush. Has to be all lowercase, otherwise the action won't work. And on the brush layer, select it, hit B on the keyboard, grab yourself a brush, choose a colour, any colour, and what you want to do is start brushing over your photo where you want to break it apart and shoot up in a direction of your choice. So to save a bit of time, I have, where is it? I've brushed over these areas, and what I want to do, I want the parts to shoot up into the air. Okay, so let's go ahead and load up the action. So if you go to the window menu, select actions, and go to this icon at the top, select load actions, and then double click on the dispersion 2 to ATM file, and it will appear here. Twirl the folder open and you have all your directions. So for this example, all I will do is select the up action and click play. The middle one, I'll just show you an example of what the middle one does. So here I have at the top here is the original photo. Going down, this is the areas that I brushed, and the bottom here is where I applied the middle action. And the middle one explodes all the parts out in all different directions. So just keep that in mind when using the middle one. Okay, so I'll close that, and so you select the up action, and just keep in mind that this action can take anywhere between a minute and 5 minutes to complete. Really depends on the detail in your photo, contrast between pixels, and the resolution of your photo. So just hold tight and come back to it in a few minutes and see what you got. So I'll fast forward the video and we'll go from the result. So the action's stopped and this is what we got. Alright, so I'll just close the actions panel and we'll go into the layer panel now. Now a quick tip to quickly minimize all these folders, to collapse the folders, is if on a PC, if I hold down Control and Alt and click on this arrow here on the Dispersion 2 folder, it will collapse all the folders. So Control Alt on a PC, Command Option on a Mac, and it will minimize all the folders. Okay, so the top folder here we have adjustments. So this is just a series of small adjustment layers that can affect the overall look of the design. At the top here we have the original area that we brushed, so you can see that all the parts have started to fly out from where we brushed. Okay, so if you wanted to run the action again, you could just drag this up to the top, delete these two folders, and if you wanted to try a different resolution, change it, and then run the action again. So I'll just undo that. So where were we? Before and after, it's just a quick look at the before and after, and what the action has done. Alright, add vibrance. This is just a simple adjustment layer to, whoops, we'll turn that one off. So if I drag this handle around, you can see what that's doing, and a bit of saturation below, so you can mess around with that one. Add sharpening. Just adds a little bit of overall sharpening, but I suggest that if you're moving parts around, just to leave this turned off, because if I move this layer, you can see that it overlays, basically copies the entire image, the final result, and adds a bit of overall sharpening to it. So as soon as you start moving layers around, it's going to leave a bit of residue behind. So just probably leave that one off. Bit of contrast. You can select the word opacity here, click and drag on it to adjust the overall contrast in your photo. Add color tint. If you double click on this one, you can add a bit of overall coloring. So you can use this drop down menu here, scan through these if you want. Add color. So you'll notice that if I turn the original one back on, it's added a bit of a color grade to it. That's coming from this layer here, add color. So that's one you can just turn on and off if you don't want to use it. Right, so we have the main dispersion 2 folder. If I turn this on and off, that one houses all the effects. So let's go inside. Parts contrast. This top layer here is, again, if I just drag this word opacity, click and drag to the left and right, it's just applying contrast to the parts only, not to our original photo, just to the broken up parts. So I just found that that just adds a bit of extra effect, overall effect. Alright, so let's go down. We have all our parts in different folders, and I'll explain how all this is set up. So the top folder here is our large blurred parts. So if I turn this one on and off, you can see they're the ones that appear really close to the camera. And if you go inside, each one is layered. So you can just select one and move it around. Or you could, if you select one, and what I like to do is if I hold down Alt, Option on a Mac, Alt, click and drag, it's a quick way of duplicating the layer, so then I can just move that around. Okay? And what you can also do is duplicate the entire folder. So if I right click on the folder, duplicate group, we have another folder full of, whoops, I'll just select the folder, move that around, another folder full of parts. So you can make this as detailed as you want. If you don't want a million layers here, what you can do, if I just select the folder and go Control E, it flattens the folder. So now we just have one layer with all the parts. Okay, so I'll delete that. And you'll notice that each one of these folders has a folder mask. That's just a quick way to erase parts that you don't want. So for example, if I select this folder mask here and I grab a black brush and say I don't want this part here, I'll just brush over it and it's gone. But it's not erased, it's just hidden. So if I now switch to a white brush, I can brush it back in. Okay, so any part that look a bit odd or that you don't want, just use the folder mask. And what I like to do is, if say the action's finished and there's a part that looks a bit weird, you don't want it, say for example this part above her head, so what I'll do, I'll just tick these folders on and off, and I'll try and work out which folder it lies in. So large parts here, I can just brush into there, oops, got a black brush, so that's gone, and then I'll work out, so the other folder, large blurred parts in there, so that's gone as well. And what you can also do is the main dispersion 2 folder has a mask on it as well. So if I just grab a black brush, I can just brush anywhere and erase all the effects. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so we had our large blurred parts and we have our small parts. Lots of different layers. If you move them around, that one's very small. Let's try to find one bigger. So you can see them there, and again what I like to do is hold down Alt, click and drag, duplicate them, just like that, and you can keep moving them up further into the air if you want, or you could shift select, grab a cluster of layers, alt click and drag to duplicate them, move them up, just like that. Alright, next we have our medium parts. So these parts are a little bit bigger than the small ones. If I move them up in the air, you can see the size of those. The large parts, I'll move this folder around and you can see the size of those. Don't feel you have to use all the folders. You can, if you don't want the large ones, turn it off. If you just want the small ones, just turn those other ones off. Okay, so let's just keep them all on. Now patches, if I go inside this one, we have these 7 layers. Now the patches are groups of parts. So for example, if I grab patch 3 and move that around, you'll see that that's a big cluster of parts. 4, you see that as well. Now keep in mind that 1 and 2, if I move them around, you see those ones at the top, they're parts that are really blurred out, so it gives the appearance that it's way off in the distance. Okay, so 1 and 2 are those ones, so keep that in mind. Moving down, now this one here is important to know what it does. So if I zoom in, where should I zoom in? Onto a hand here, and turn this one on and off, you'll see that it adds a little bit of black shadow, and it's to give the appearance that the parts have, see if I look over on this side, that the parts have broken off from the area that we brushed. Now they will only appear over the area that we brushed, so you can see the shadow there. So if I move this down to make it more obvious, you can see it there, and they just sit underneath the parts. So if you run the action and you don't want it, you don't want that black shadowing, just go into the patches folder, turn that one off. But for most of the photos that I ran the action with, it looked really good. So just play around with it. You can move it further away or closer, lower the opacity. Alright, zoom back out. So that's the patches folder, lines. These are just some very subtle, we're going to zoom in around here. If I turn this one on and off, you see that those lines there, and there's just 2 of them. Zoom back out, so move this one around. You see that there's a small one and a large one. Again, you can just duplicate the layers to create more copies. This one here is just one by default that I have it turned off, but these are large cutouts of your photo. So if I move this piece up into the air, you can see, if I just zoom in here, you can see that part there. So you can turn that folder on if you want and experiment with just moving those layers around. It can create some weird abstract effects. So yeah, but by default that's off, so just remember that. Soft motion lights, this one is very subtle. It's only got a opacity of 10%. If I turn this one up, you can see it's these lines here that sort of blur between the dispersion parts, and it's meant to be really subtle, so just keep that in mind. The glow, the opacity of this layer is set to 30. If I drag this to 100, you can just see that there. If I move it around, again, just a really subtle effect, just adds a little bit, so you can play around with the opacity of that. Okay, and so that's all there is to it. It's as simple as that. Just create a new layer, brush the areas that you want to disperse, choose a direction, and hit play. Now, another thing I want to show you is if you are wanting to run the action on a transparent image. So, for example, I've got this guy here, but the layer is not set as a background. But watch what happens when I set the layer as a background. So I've got a layer, new background from layer. It fills it white in the background, so what do you do from here? Alright, so what I did is, where's my example? So here we go. So I have the original photo let me just set this up. I'll turn this off. Okay, so that's what we had. Our original photo. Now if we go inside here, I brushed onto this area, and by default you will get, well, I got, this result here. But I can't just, select the background layer and erase it to remove his legs. I wanted to use that transparent image. So what you can do is, run the action, get your result, create a new layer, and fill it with a solid color. So now we've now hidden our background layer, so because we've got this white layer above it, and you can make this any color you want. So, oops, just create a blue background. Okay, the next what I did is if I imported my PNG, my transparent image, so you can see that there, but we still, I want to get rid of his legs. I just want those parts to appear there. So what I did, I'll just delete that and I'll set this up. Don't like that blue. So what I did is I selected my my transparent image, and I went down to the bottom of the layer panel, created a mask, grabbed my black brush, and I started brushing over his legs to hide it, to hide his legs. So now all we have is the broken up parts, which is a really cool effect. So you can try that method on your photos, and yeah, see what you come up with. Alright, so that's it. Have fun. Any questions, let me know and I'll be glad to help.